Welcome to Keep Your Head Up Hockey. I'm your host, Jamie. And thanks so much for tuning in. Jamie, J-Dog, how you doing, buddy?
Great, brother. Got a half a day off, so I'm pretty happy.
Hey, there we go. And you know what, man? Leaf finally got it done against Ottawa in the Battle of Ontario. The Leafs are victorious. And you know what? Oh, thank God, because I don't know if I could have taken a reverse sweep or a comeback or even a game 7 against Ottawa. I didn't want to see it, and man, the haters, it's nice to shut them up because I haven't heard nothing from them since a good series, and then it's been quite quiet. A lot of no chirps, so it's good to hear. But what are your thoughts here on Ottawa winning or Ottawa losing against the Leafs and the Leafs being victorious in the
Well,
Battle of Ontario?
there was a good meme I saw the other day. It was a guy going ha ha, pointing up. This is on TikTok, and there was a picture of Brady Tkachuk, and he was going ha ha ha, you're gone. And then it flipped to Matthew Tkachuk holding the cup, going. Yeah, it's a big hill to climb, but I'm glad they got it done. And yes, they felt the negativity, they felt everything. People we can't help. We've got the right to be angry about the way things went. Absolutely. They should have finished it again, though. You know what? They made the playoffs. Ottawa's not a bad team. They made the playoffs. They're a good team. They're a solid team. They're a good up and coming team. I'll tell you that right now. I think in about 3 years they're going to be really good. They need a couple of changes there. I think discipline's an issue with that team, obviously, but I think for the most part they're a good up and coming team, and it was a good challenge. It was, as much as it's bad, the adversity is good. If you're not getting any adversity and you come up against a team like Florida, if you're not getting any adversity beforehand, I think that's going to hinder you in the process. This is all a process. This is why, teams go to the finals like 2 and 3 times or get close, 2 or 3 times before they actually win. It's not often that you just go and win. You don't just, not everybody's Vegas. You know what I mean?
True that.
That's the thing you need to remember. And Vegas wasn't just Vegas. Vegas was made up of a bunch of hardworking lunch bucket, guys that had 3 or 4 super talented players. So that, and good goaltending. So it's not usual that happens. So I think it was a good test for them. I still think that, if they play like that, it's gonna, like the way they did, they might win one game against Florida. Florida's not going to allow you to make those mistakes. That they don't miss when they're shooting on net. They make the best of their chances. And when you got guys like Bennett and Barkov and whatever else, that they can score, but they can play hard. And then you know who's going to be under their skin the whole time. Fucking rat,
yeah. Marchand, yeah. So Matthew Tkachuk and Marchand now on Florida. Yeah, they're going to be stirring some shit, that's for sure. But you know what I liked the most, though, Jay, was finally some urgency out of this team. We were crying for it before Game 6, and I really thought that Toronto did show up. The core 4 finally did show up. I thought they all had a pretty good game. Nylander, of course, on his birthday, birthday luck Nylander, ends up getting 2 points. Like, you can't write it better, right? But the guy doesn't play the whole series, and now he's the goal scorer, the leader for the league.
Yeah, he was.
I just don't get it, man. But the urgency was there. Finally, they woke up. Will the urgency be enough against Florida? I don't think so. We've really got to play an amazing game, Jay. It's going to be tough against Florida.
Well, I think it's actually going to be probably 6 games that they have to play their a full 60 minutes, because if they're going to win, it's going to be in 7. They're going to lose even the bet. They might even lose the best game they play against Florida. It's going to happen at least one game. They can play a phenomenal game, but when you've got Bob in net, he's going to steal at least one game for you, maybe 2. And when you consider the way that the Leafs have been shooting on net lately, it's not been great. They're going to have to hone their skills a little bit between now and then, and the sense of urgency, obviously, the grinding, the physicality. The Leafs are just as big as this team, and that's they're a heavy team, but they're not a huge team. They've got some bigger players, but I believe Ekblad's suspended too, though, isn't he? He's got 2 games. So that's
he's got 2 games is what I've heard. Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna hurt them a little bit on the back end for sure. He logs a lot of minutes. He's a 25-minute game, per game guy. Especially in the playoffs. And I think when you consider, the physicality that this team is going to bring, I'm pretty sure Toronto's going to have to pick it up a notch. And it's not going to be the guys that are, the core 4 that are going to win this game or win this. They have to be their best, but your bottom 6 have to be at their best at all times, because they've got one of the best coaches, if not the best coach in the league. You want my honest opinion? And this guy takes advantage of every situation, every power play, every penalty kill. Even on the penalty kill, he's looking to score. And when you got a goalie like Barkov, you're not as concerned, as most other coaches are concerned. Like when it comes to the goaltending, you don't necessarily mind being down when you got a couple of dudes that can score goals like Tkachuk and Barkov. And Bennett can score too. You've got there's other guys too. Don't get me wrong. I just mean that you've got a scoring chance the whole time. And you can play defensively fairly well with a guy like Barkov and net. You don't have to play fantastic. That's different. So you can take a couple extra chances. So I think that's going to be the key. You got to play your best for 6 games. Absolutely.
Yeah, they're going in hot to Florida too. Like Florida, just played Tampa Bay, and that was more of a battle than Ottawa and Leafs. Leafs didn't play well and still beat Ottawa, right? If they don't play well against the best team in playoff hockey right now, they're going to lose. And I hope that really the core 4 does show up. Nylander had a great game. I hope that he plays like that in every single game of this series. And going into Florida when the games are not in Toronto, that building's loud. And they just won the Stanley Cup. Of course, they're going to want to do it again. The parties, the camaraderie, the jewelry that comes with it. They want it all. They want it again. And Leafs, of course, are searching for their first cup since '67. They want it as well, but I just don't know if they've had enough of trials and tribulations yet, Jay, to really be able to do it like Florida did it. Florida went back-to-back Stanley Cup finals and then finally won. This trophy's not easy to win. The rings aren't just given away for free, right? The Leafs really got to show up, and they got to show up every game. And you know what? I think that the number one thing that's going to be the difference, Jay, and you might be shocked at me saying this, Toronto has to be the tougher team. If they aren't tougher physically against this team, and this team beats up on them and we don't beat up on them, we're going to lose the series hands down, regardless of how many goals we score, regardless of how well Stolarz plays. We have to be more physical than Florida, and that might just be something really hard to take.
Well, I'll be honest with you. I was quite impressed with how physical Ottawa was. I don't think the team's going to be much more physical than Ottawa, to be honest with you. Ottawa is a pretty big physical team. I was quite surprised. I hadn't watched too many Ottawa games this year, to be honest with you. I think I only watched 3. And I wasn't paying attention to the size because the games weren't that physical back then, during the season. But I will say this, during the playoffs, they were a whole different lot to play against. And, you look at it, they didn't play that tough against Toronto during the regular season, and they beat them. So it just goes to show that when Toronto actually plays, they're going to be able to pick up the slack a little bit, not just in the physicality, but also in your, the scoring and as far as back check, forecheck, paycheck, all the acronyms you want to use, whatever. I think the biggest thing is, though, is Florida going to get their best out of all their players. Now, when you look at guys like Tkachuk, Marchand, Verhaeghe, and Barkov you're always going to get, and Bennett, but you get those guys. Out of those guys, is Marchand going to be Marchand? He's playing on the third line. That's like, he is a great hockey player. He's still a great hockey player. He's probably on second line pretty much anywhere else. But when you consider like the way that these guys are playing, it's a different type of hockey. These guys are not playing like the way everybody else is. These are 4 physical lines, and they get after you. They don't give you time to make good decisions. You're making forced decisions all the time. Paul Maurice is, like I said, I can't say enough about this guy. I don't understand why they got rid of him in Toronto. If you look back and you look at why, when they got rid of him and why they get rid of him, it was the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life. There was 6 players on that team that should have been gone, and they stayed, but they got rid of the best coach in the league, as far as I'm concerned. And it just made zero sense. And I will say right now, if they don't do it this year, I'm telling you right now, Shanahan should be fucking gone. He should have been gone a little while ago. However, resurgence, things are better. The hire of the general manager last year, I guess the end of the year, this is it's better. It's better for sure. But there's still decisions to be made. I mean, there's been good pickups this year, obviously, in Stolarz, Lawton. He was the hero the other night. It wasn't fucking Nylander. That's how you block shots. That's what it takes. And there's a talk that Berube was talking in the change room after the game. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's exactly what he was talking about. Lawton knows what it takes to win. That's a guy that knows what it takes to win. He's not the most talented, but he's willing to sacrifice, and Tanev, everybody's got to play like Tanev, like the physicality. You don't have to be the biggest hitter. You don't have to be the strongest guy. You need to protect the puck. You need to be physical, knock the guy off the puck. You have to be the first guy to the puck, and you need to not make mistakes when you have the puck. And that's Tanev. He's not the hardest hitter. He's not the best player. He's not anything better than anybody except for shot blocker and hockey IQ. And you have to have your hockey IQ firing on all cylinders once you're playing against a team like these guys. They got away with it in the round against the Sens, but there's no way they're gonna get away with it against these guys.
Coming up on Monday, a really unique goalie matchup. Teammates, but now exes are going head to head. We got Stolarz and Bobrovsky. The veteran versus the rookie, quote unquote. Not really a rookie, but one learning from the other, almost like a hockey but football reference. Rogers and Love, or Favre and Rogers. And now Stolarz and Bobrovsky. These both goalies are fantastic, and one learning from the other. One thing that I like about Stolarz, though, man, his attitude. Nobody's got a better attitude. Back of his helmet. This has been on his helmet for 9 years running now. Prove people wrong. And I just love that. I don't know who lit the bear or the fire under the bear, got them all fired up, man. But somebody pissed this guy off years and years ago, and he's got something to prove. And man, oh man, Jay, has he ever proved it this year? One of the greatest records I've seen in a 10, 15 game stretch from any goalie. Just absolutely hitting it out of the park. Comes into a team that needed a leader, a team that needed a goalie, and he's the answer. And he has been the answer this year. And boy, oh boy, does he ever have the people that had doubts in him. Now they're shaking their head and saying, "Oh man, I wish I would have had a goalie like him." What's your thought on our leader, our goalie this year, and in round 2 against?
Well, as far as he needs to play. Honestly, the last couple of games, I found he didn't have the same edge he had for the first few games. He needs to pick it up a little bit himself. Not that he's playing bad, just not the same. I find when he's got a little fire in his belly there, he plays a little bit better. They didn't really get physical around him that much in the last couple of games, so you didn't see the fire in him. I think he needs to be poked and prodded a little bit like Grieg did, and he plays better. I think that's just better for him. I think he needs that. And you look at the way he reacted to him. He was smashing him. He was, he needs that. And, if he has to take a penalty every once in a while to get himself fired up, he realizes if he takes a penalty, he's to blame. And he's the one that has to, basically make sure that they don't score. So, you still got to get through 4 other guys, but you know what I'm saying. In this matchup, for me, I'd like to get rid of Bobrovsky. If you want my honest opinion, I think the forwards need to crash the net hard. I'm not saying injure him. I'm saying hurt him. I'm saying that's part of the game anyway. You need to crash the net. If you take a penalty, you take a penalty. You got to get under this guy's skin. There's nothing happening. When, I've watched a couple of Tampa games, and I'll tell you right now, they didn't crash the net anywhere near as much as I thought they would. Tampa's a big, heavy team. They're a lot bigger than Florida, and they're a big, heavy team, and they didn't crash the net like I thought they were going to. And I'll tell you right now, once it threw me off. Once you start crashing the net with Bobrovsky, you're going to draw attention, obviously not just to yourself because of what you did to the goalie and get the goalie off, but you're also going to draw attention from the players. So they're going to be thinking about something else other than scoring. They're going to try and get physical with you. That's in their mind. That's one more thing on your mind. You've already got a ton of things on your mind when you're playing. To have that mindset going, holy shit, that fucker just smashed my goalie. I got to get him too. That's going to be, do I make a hit or do I take the puck? And the way hockey players are, because they're physical, most of them are physical, especially this team, they're going to try and take the hit every time. So that gives you opportunity with the puck. And, if they make bad decisions because they're pissed off, that's what you got to do, man. You got to get under the skin. And I think running Bobrovsky every chance they get in there. And I mean, take a penalty. Take 2 or 3 penalties. It doesn't really matter. At the start of the game, run the goalie. At the start of the game, run the goalie. Start of the second period, run the goalie. Run the fucking goalie as often and as possible as you possibly can. In the first game, you know what? You're going to lose a couple games anyway. You're not going to go 4 straight against these guys. So, you know what? Run the goalie. Make sure that he gets hammered every chance you get. Take slap shots at his fucking head. I mean right at his head. If you have no angle, I mean bullet right at him as hard as you can. And if it hits somebody, it hits somebody. If it doesn't, it doesn't. That's just it. You have to get that guy on his heels. This guy's a very acrobatic goalie. If you're comparing the two, Stolarz is a very quiet, very low movement goalie. He's very focused. Bobrovsky's obviously just as focused, but there's a lot of movement in his game because he deliberately relies on his acrobatic ability that most other goalies don't have. I find him and Steve Quick or Jonathan Quick are very. Steve Quick's a grade 7 or 8 friend of mine. He was a goalie too. He played with him in Bantam. But anyway, he's very similar to Jonathan Quick, except he's bigger and he has a bit more of a stand-up stance in comparison. But if you look at how wide he is apart, he's ripe for the picking for, small leg injuries. I hate to say it, but he's got such a wide stance and he's a bow-legged as fuck guy. So you look at the way he stands in comparison to Stolarz. Stolarz uses that butterfly. So does he, but he's wide when he's got a stance going. He tries to cover the net more. He's usually down lower. This picture isn't a great, because
comparison.
Yeah, it's not a great comparison, but he's lower to the ground normally when he's lower to the ice. And I think the two of them, if you're the big difference is Stolarz when you're coming in, he's already at the net. He covers so much net, he's already at the net. This guy comes out. If you watch Bobrovsky, he comes out quite a bit more. And so he's ripe for the pickings. If you skate through his crease, you give him a little nudge, you hit the back of his skate, he's going to probably flip and flop like something killed him or, you've been shot, he's European, right? So anyway, I just think that you can get under this guy's skin a lot quicker than you can Stolarz. Stolarz enjoys the contact. I think he wants that to happen. Bobrovsky doesn't like to be touched, doesn't like to be pushed, doesn't like any of that stuff. And I think if you start hitting them as you're going by, little stick work, little back of the ankle stuff, and then skate right through them when you get the chance. Cut to the net. Guys like Domi who don't mind going to the net, Guys like Lawton. Lawton needs to go right to the net hard. Same thing with McMahon. McMahon doesn't mind doing it. The big guys. Matthew needs to do it, but Matthews needs to lay the body. Like when he goes in there, protect yourself. Try and score, but if you know you have nothing, just make some stupid move and run them the fuck over. Take the penalty.
Like I said, the Leafs have got to be a tougher team in all aspects. If we don't out hit and out piss off Florida's going to do it to us, and then we're going to lose to Florida. So we really have got to play the toughest that Toronto's played. Do we have it in us? I don't know. I haven't seen it yet. But I definitely have seen a tougher team than years before that haven't been under Coach Berube. And I've got to say that Coach Berube has gotten a lot of tough out of this team, but they've got to be even tougher, like I mentioned earlier. Well, let's talk about it, man. Game 6 ended. Moving on. Game 1 on Monday. Keys for success, Jay. What are your main things that you're going to say? Mine. I say toughness is key. And you say take Bobrovsky's head off. But what else does the Leafs need to do to get a Game 1 win home against Florida?
You can't take stupid penalties against this team. They're going to make you pay every time. You can't make bad passes. They're going to make you pay every time. Everything you do needs to be done with urgency and accuracy. You can't make bad passes. So Marner can't do what he did last year in the playoffs. He's been pretty good this year. I'll give him credit. But you can't try to make all this fancy shit happen. You got to get back to basics. All the things that you do have to be done perfectly. You can't give these guys one chance, because you give away one chance, you're giving away one goal. They're going to make you pay every time because they come in waves. They don't just freaking come like one guy, two guys. They come in three, and then they got a defenseman that's usually jumping in. And the thing is, they're a fairly quick team, and they I don't know if you watched any of their games. They don't get tired, man. These guys just come four lines, and it's just constant. And if you want to win the Stanley Cup, that's what you have to have. A constant barrage of pressure at all times, make mistakes happen, and the Leafs got to do the same thing with them. And again, like I said, if you can get under the skin of guys like Tkachuk, and you can get under the skin of Bobrovsky, and there's guys on that team like I'll tell you right now, when Ekblad comes back, he's easy to get pissed off. He's a guy that takes dumb penalties. Verhaeghe's the same way. And I'll tell you right now, Domi needs to pick it up a notch and start. He needs to throw a couple fists. I think not just him, but there's a couple other guys. Lawton could do the same.
Nice.
Nice. Yeah, if you want. The only thing is, you don't really want Knies in the box. You want Knies. You want to be 5-on-5 or 5-on-4 with Knies. You want Knies out of the box. But it wouldn't hurt. Again, the first game, I would be so focused on just trying to make them make mistakes instead of trying to score. You guys, like they've got two lines of scoring ability. The Leafs got two full lines of scoring ability, and it runs 4 lines. But they're not all great goal scorers, but they can all score goals. So I don't see why I wouldn't be going as hard as I can for 60 minutes the first game. Whatever comes as far as the goals are concerned, the goals come. If you lose the first game, you lose the first game. You don't want to lose at home. But my idea would be to be coming full physical attack all the time. No time for rest. No time for making decisions. Always have 2 guys in, and 1 guy back in the middle. Make sure play like, honestly, I would say play like back when Brodeur was playing like New Jersey, and block up the middle of the ice as well on the way back. So that's just my thoughts.
And capitalize on their mistakes as well, right? If they give you an inch, you got to make them pay. There's a couple times against Ottawa when Matthews had a chance to score, Nylander had a chance to score, and they didn't make them pay, and it cost us the game. So let's not let that happen against Florida. If they do, they do. But I just hope that they don't. Play the toughness that we played. The last 20 game stretch, we played some great hockey. I hope that they continue it, man. Leafs looking good heading into game 1, round 2 against Florida. Payback's the bitch, as they say. But we'll wrap it up here with Jay and Jamie. Keep your head up, hockey. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next time. As always, stick on the ice. Keep your head up. Go Leafs, go. We'll see you next time.